Hello everyone, John Maher here. It is Thursday, 13th of November 2025, and this is your weekly Grass10 grazing management update on the Dairy Edge. It has been a difficult week in terms of grazing. We've had lots of rain. However, the grass supply figures have held reasonably well now, with an average farm cover of around 700. Growth was 23, which is above average, and the demand was 36 kilos per hectare. So we're eating a lot more than we're growing, which is what you expect at this time of year. But the figures are still reasonable. The average diet of the dairy cow was about 11 kilos of grass this week, in the week gone by, about 4 kilos of meal and about 4 kilos of silage, and the average yield of grass being grazed was about 1,500. The rainfall has brought its own challenges this week, and grazing conditions are difficult at times for those who have grass to graze. Saying that, when you look at the pasture-based Ireland figures, about 50% of farmers, based on the figures from Pasture Base on Tuesday, shouldn't be grazing, as their average farm cover is well below 600 kilos per hectare. The predicted growth for the week ahead is about 15 kilos per hectare, but there is a nice bit of rain forecast as well. I suppose if you look at the figures, there's about 2 inches of rain forecasted for the south, or around 50 millimetres, and the southeast corner, I suppose, is going to get somewhere about 75 mils or 3 inches of rain. However, the weather pattern after that is to improve a bit. While it's fine for me to talk about grass being grazed, there are two priorities now at the moment, getting the housing cover right, and avoiding severe damage to paddocks, given the state of the year we are at in middle of November. Many soils will be easily damaged this week now if not managed correctly. So it's a case of getting on, getting off, using all the things available to you to make sure damage is not done. So most farms at this stage are housing animals by night, utilising on-off grazing. It's important when you're using on-off grazing that the animals have an appetite to go out to grass. Nothing worse than an animal who doesn't have an appetite for grazing, going out in wet conditions. They're likely to complain more, therefore walk more, therefore do damage. So it's also important then to have the right grazing infrastructure in place, to be in the right paddocks with the right cover where you are grazing if at all possible, bringing the cows one way and exit another way, to use spur roadways. It's a case of heads up grazing really, and use a bit of flexibility. You have to try and do the best you can with what the weather you have and the grass you have, accepting some level of what I would call surface damage, and accepting that you will not get to clean the paddocks as well as you should. However, if we are in the right covers of grass, anywhere from 1,1600 down, it's very easy going and graze 11 or 1200 and have a very green, growthy sward left after grazing. So a bit of planning is required in terms of the grazing this week. I suppose this week's decisions then, we're coming towards the end for many farmers. A lot of farmers will have over 90% of the farm close up now by the time this podcast goes out. And this week's decisions have a huge influence on the closing cover. So, for example, taking out one extra paddock, one of average size on the farm, will generally result in dropping the average farm cover above about 50 or 60 kilograms per hectare. So just taking one extra paddock at a cover around 11, 12, 1300, assuming it's average, can have a huge impact on dropping the farm cover. So the priority in November is to set up the farm for spring. The average farm cover for many dairy farms should be around 700 kilograms of dry matter per hectare on the 1st of December, and no less than that. So it's a case of being proactive with grazing decisions and making sure that whatever you do doesn't have an impact on lowering your average farm cover and thereby lowering the growth rates. For example, if your average farm cover was 600 kilograms of dry matter per hectare on the 15th of November, and the average growth for the next 15 days is around 10 kilos per hectare per day, it's about scheduled for that at the moment. That is an average farm cover then of 750 on the 1st of December, which is what is required for dairy farms with a stocking rate of 3 per hectare or higher, or have, cows calving in January and a very high 6-week calving rate. So the numbers are simple: 600 the 15th of November, 15 days to the 1st of December, an average of 10 a day. That's 150 on top of your 600, which is about 750, assuming we don't get any heavy frost towards the end of November. Now, speaking of targets, our feature farmer this week is Gerry Finneran from Carrignavar, just outside Cork City. Gerry stocked at 3.55 livestock units per hectare on the platform, has a big demand for spring grass. His average farm cover on Monday was about 790 kilograms per hectare, grew about 30 and was eaten about 30. The diet of the cows was about 8 kilos of grass, 6 kilos of silage, high quality silage, and 5 kilos of meal. The cows were doing about over 14 litres at 575 fat and about 445 protein, which means about 1.5 kilograms of milk solids. During that difficult spell of weather early on this week, Gerry was grazing covers about 1800. He was out by day and in by night using strip wires. The graze outs had been quite adequate up to that point. He had 85% of the farm closed on 9th of November, and his target average farm cover for the 1st of December was a minimum of 750. So, that management of the sward this week in terms of average farm cover and what paddocks you graze are important to ensure that you have enough grass for next spring. That's based on having a growth rate of about 4 kilos per day across the winter, with an average farm cover of 750 in the 1st of December. Therefore, on the 1st of February, you would have about 1,000 kilograms of dry matter per hectare. In relation to Gerry's farm now, Gerry has spread about 70 tonnes of lime this year. He had all the reseeded paddocks pretty well closed off. Before the real rain came, he had most of the clover paddocks closed off. About 60% of the farm has reasonable clover, and most of those were closed at the time of this podcast, I suppose. He has a few more paddocks to graze, all right, but with very much the farm cover to 1st of December of 750 minimum in his sites. That's Gerry's story. Before I finish this podcast, I suppose we're entering the conference season, and I'm going to give a shout out to 2 conferences coming up. I suppose first is the Teagasc National Dairy Conference taking place on the 26th of November in Clonmel in the Talbot Hotel, and then the 27th of November in the Kilmore Hotel in Cavan. I suppose there are 2 Grass10-based papers of note here, one by Sarah Walsh on the pasture profit index and the clover index, and the second one on using the grass prediction model for precision grazing management. There are other papers then on farm at this conference is on farm succession, the costs and markets for 2026, and some policy updates as well. The second conference then, just want to mention, is the Dairy Women of Ireland conference, which is taking place on the 21st of November in the Charleville Park Hotel. This is sponsored by FBD. I do know that Mary Kinston is presenting a paper at this, and she'll stress the importance of grass grown and eaten, and Mary will also tell you that doing grass walks are good for her in every sense of the word. Right, so there's just 2 conferences coming up. So if you'd like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to the newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. We'd like to thank those partners who support the Grass10 campaign, which are AIB, Grassland Agro, Department of Agriculture and Food and the Marine, FBD and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update, and I'd like to wish you all the best in the week ahead. Keep an eye on the average farm cover, and I'll talk to you all next week.